What's up? I hope you're all doing well. Today we have Kenzie here all the way from New Zealand to give you a news update on what's going on over there. Welcome, Kenzie. How are you doing?
Hi, Kayla. Doing really well. Thanks for having me do this. Just a little update about me. I'm a PhD student down here, originally from Colorado in the States. I've been down here about 3 years now, hopefully finishing up soon, but hoping to stay down here and continue to live in beautiful New Zealand.
Beautiful New Zealand. Do you mind showing us a little bit do you mind showing us your window?
I would love to show you my window view. It's right
Wow.
out beautiful Christchurch.
Look at that. What lake is that we're looking at?
So this would be Sumner Bay that you're looking into.
Do people go swimming there?
Yeah, there's a few boats in there too. There's a nice little dock that you can jump off of into.
Have you ever been on that lake?
Been swimming off of the beach into it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Bring it back.
Look at that New Zealand sky. The water looks really nice too.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful no matter where you go in New Zealand, but probably one of the best views I've had would be right here. So
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing your view. Oh man, it's cool to just like see my view and then look out into yours and just be like, oh, we're super far away, but we're kind of connected.
But no, yeah, connected, then you can see what I see.
Cool. So you're from Colorado like me. We met there in Colorado and now you're in New Zealand and you want to do some traveling after all of this COVID stuff settles down?
Yes, I do. I mostly want to go to some of the new islands around here. There's a lot of islanders that are coming into New Zealand and they're all super nice. So I would love to go to some of their actual home countries like Fiji, the Cook Islands, and then obviously Australia next to us. So yeah, those are kind of where I'm hoping to go post-pandemic.
Post-pandemic. Do you think it's possible to go to any of those places soon, or you have no idea?
Yeah, I think some of the smaller islands will be, just because would be similar to here in that it's an island nation. So its COVID numbers have been relatively low. And so then if both are relatively low, there's a bigger chance of allowing that travel between them. So specifically with Australia, they're trying to get everybody back and traveling and stuff. So hopefully that would be a possibility by the end of the year, if not in the next 6 months or so. So very exciting.
Yeah, but could you travel back to the US and then come back to New Zealand if you wanted?
I cannot, because currently the only people that they're really letting in are New Zealand residents and citizens. They're letting in a few international students and like critical workers, but you have to apply to those, and they're only letting a certain number in, and it's a big process and additional paperwork with visas and stuff. So if I leave currently, I cannot come back in. So pretty much stuck around here for a while, but not a bad place.
Not a bad place to be stuck, but really hard at the same time, just like not being able to visit your family.
Yeah.
Makes it really challenging being so far.
Yeah, but it's also the Kiwi culture is very inclusive, very welcoming. Everybody's family here. One of the things with our COVID response down here was we're a team of 5 million, so everybody's in this together, and like Kiwis all really took that to heart. We didn't have many rule breakers and stuff in all of our lockdown. Everybody was really trying to help each other and get through it, and that's why I think it's done so well down here, is because the Kiwi community was just, we're all in this together, let's help each other out, and everybody really did that.
Wow.
So it's been a little bit like a family down here as well.
Yeah, I've heard, from you about like the community aspect on like a friendship level, but that's so cool to hear. Like,
yeah,
like everyone of the country.
Level, yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. That's good stuff. That actually makes sense also as to why you guys are doing so well.
Yeah. It's the Kiwi way. They're pretty proud of New Zealand and want to keep that down here, and proud of where they're from. And yeah, so It's very nice.
Wow. Okay, Ken, so let's go into entry restrictions. Okay, so what is required for entry? I mean, who could enter? Can somebody be from the US or a tourist come into New Zealand right now?
Yeah. So right now it's just New Zealand citizens and residents, their parents and children, obviously, or partners and children. They're just starting to let in some international students and some critical workers like doctors and nurses. But to actually come in, all of those people need, as of Monday the 31st, they need a negative COVID test. And that can be like the PCR, the LAMP, or the antigen one. And 72 hours of the departure of their flight. And the other thing they have to have when boarding is a managed isolation facility placement. Part of the restrictions that New Zealand has, since we don't have a lot of COVID in the community, is that we have these managed isolation facilities, which are hotels here in Christchurch and in Auckland, where when you come in, you have to stay for 14 days and get tested regularly before you're allowed to actually come further into the city. So you need those two things when coming into New Zealand, a negative test and a managed isolation spot.
Wow, there's a lot of security measures being taken there for people coming in. So they come in, so they fly in. Number one, there's not a lot of people that are allowed in. They have to be very essential. And then they come in and they have to quarantine for 14 days in a specific place, and they get tested multiple times. Are there sick people in those places sometimes?
Yeah, so there definitely are. We get updates every day of, there are 7 new cases in managed isolation. And what they'll just try and isolate them more. I mean, I don't know the specifics of how they are necessarily working, but my guess would be, everybody's in a spot, and once you test positive, you're self-quarantined by yourself, or, your family, maybe if you all have it, and then you're regularly tested until you test negative again. But I think some of the stays have been 14 days and some of them have been longer because, family gets it, you're there for 14 days, and then a family member gets it, so you're there for another 14. And that's all time too. So it's kind of a big deal to come back in because you have to be able to go through all of this stuff, and there's limited spots, and then you're paying for it. So
But this is really only for number one, Kiwis who are abroad and they're trying to get back in, or essential people. This isn't for like anybody, like tourists or people from the US.
Yep. Not
Wow.
yet. Yep. This is just for everybody.
So basically, say that so you tested negative, your whole family tested negative. It's been 14 days. You come into the country, and then how does it look?
It looks pretty much normal, back to day-to-day life. The only really thing that's different is we have little QR codes at cafes and stuff that you scan when you go in. And that's kind of for contact tracing. So say you did come in and you tested negative every time, but somehow it stayed in you. If you're scanning these QR codes, they can be like, oh, we've tested positive now, and you were at this cafe at this time. Let's let everybody else know that scanned in, that, they should watch for symptoms and maybe get tested if they have them. So it really just is kind of that other little layer of protection, but that's really the only big difference. There's no masks, and we had a big cricket game here last night with a couple thousand people. We've got a concert in a few weeks, so everything's big gatherings are all normal. It's just kind of that first line at the border where it's the biggest difference for New Zealand right now, I would say.
Wow, concerts, cricket matches.
Yeah.
Oh man. Living the dream in New Zealand.
Yes,
Are there any infections? Is anybody infected in New Zealand that isn't within that quarantine bubble? Is there any infections?
Nope, we haven't had a community case in quite a number of days now. I think we had one like we had a little outburst middle of last year, but
Middle of last year, like months and months ago.
Yeah, pretty few months ago. Yeah.
So you have 0 COVID cases outside besides that little bubble.
Yeah, we have 0 community cases. Yep.
Wow. So, and I'm just going to share my screen here and show everybody that link you shared with me. So let's check it out. Hold on one second here. Okay. Kenzie, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so Kenzie shared this link with me, and like this is New Zealand, obviously the island here. And Kenzie, can you tell us what we're looking at here in these little circles?
Yeah, so the top one is just our active community cases, which is 0. And then we have days without cases, and that's within our managed isolation facilities. So we usually have planes coming in. So it hasn't been 0 for a while because we have people coming in and people in facilities getting sick. But that would be the active cases that are there, that number 55. And so the little one in the corners, we've had 1 today. Our total case number would be that 2,000. And then our recovered, 80 that haven't recovered. And then our total deaths, which is only 25 in the entire country for the whole pandemic. And we don't have any in the hospital either. So yeah, but it's got all the stats there, and you can like go into different areas and stuff. But
can I click on something?
Well.
What should I click on?
Yep. If you click on one of the regions, it'll show you kind of how that on the side where you just were, like if Hutt Valley.
Oh, okay. Which region should I click? What do you think?
If you click Auckland, that was the most active one, or Canterbury is where I am.
South Canterbury? Oh, Canterbury. Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check it out. This map is so cool.
100%
recovered.
Yeah, and then we had a total of 167 cases in the area. And this was actually one of we had the most deaths in our region, I believe, because it got into a nursing home here.
Oh.
And so that was why I think we make up about half of the deaths, because it just really struck into that older, vulnerable population. But they tried to, take as quick of action and isolate them and fix that. But that would be, yeah.
That's good. That makes sense. I think it's interesting to see that. Like, I hear a lot about the more vulnerable populations, older populations, really, being the ones who are struggling the most with this or having the most deaths. But to see it like this, like to hear about that story and be like, okay, that's really true. That's really what happened here in New Zealand. And it's very obvious with the numbers.
Yeah. It's really easy to pinpoint. Yeah. Like, this is what it was, because there's not that many of them. It's not, a few hundred a day. It's, I think 10 of those 12 were in this one nursing home. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's easy to, and that was even, with people taking some precautions and stuff and wearing masks, it just got through. And then that devastation of it took on real fast. So.
Wow. Yes. But they recover. Of course, we had the deaths, and the rest of the people were able to recover. And
yep, we've had quite a good bounce back. And even our little outbreak a few months ago, I think there were 2 deaths but with the contact tracing, because they had gone from Auckland down south and gone on a little holiday, and with the contact tracing, they were able to one who had possibly been in contact with them, and then able to really shut off that spread really fast.
Wow.
So it's a very interesting
New Zealand. By the way, while we're here, let's just take a look at the map here of New Zealand, so we can see exactly where Kenzie is. So let's wait for my computer here. Okay. Oh, got a little far.
Real zoomed out.
Whoa. Well,
so
actually,
in the world,
this might be kind of good anyways. It's kind of good to see what else is around here. So we've got New Zealand, we've got Australia. What else is, so South America's to the right over here. And then what else is close to New Zealand? Indonesia.
Yeah, pretty much. Australia is the big one. Southeast Asia is probably the next closest, I would say, but.
Okay, let's.
New Zealand
hanging out. Let's zoom into exactly where Kenzie is located. Tell us the place you're located.
So I'm in Christchurch, New Zealand. It's on New Zealand's South Island. It's right on the peninsula that juts out there. Yeah.
Cool.
Quite open on the plains. Yeah.
And now, right where you are right now, there's a few hills.
Yeah, so I'm on what are we call the Port Hills, and it's about the only hills in Christchurch because it's actually volcanoes, old volcanoes, full of this little kind of peninsula here that you can see. So I'm on the hills, but other than that, it's pretty flat until you get to the mountains, which are about an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Cool.
Yeah, the Port Hills. But
Port Hills.
the best views, I would say, of Christchurch.
Best views of Christchurch and Port Hills. Everybody take note.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's great. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so we already talked a little bit about safety measures, right? That's super interesting about the QR codes. I haven't heard about that or seen that anywhere else. So basically, I mean, we use QR codes, but it's for a different reason. It's like if you go to a restaurant and you want to look at the menu, they don't give you a physical menu. They give you the QR code, but we don't have any tracking going on.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. But yeah, this is just like a little diary of where you've been, and then it works. Yeah, it works really well, and it's so simple too. It's preventative, right? Because it's not here in the community, so it's just up to you to do it, and most Kiwis are doing it. So it's a very good system.
Yeah, look at that. And so is it like an app that you use and then you just like scan it?
Yep. So it's just the COVID tracer app. I'm sure the New Zealand government has set it up and everything. And they actually put in a new feature recently that was like you can turn on Bluetooth and it'll tell you when you are by someone, I guess, that was positive or is positive maybe or something. I haven't fully looked.
Wow.
It's like so they're trying to add to it and make it a little bit better and do what they can to help stop it, the spread of COVID. So
wow. Yeah. So I mean, is it mandatory for restaurants to have these QR code scanners? And also so like at the cricket match, would you need to do it?
Yep. So the Hagley Oval will have one, which is where the match was held, and like your workplace has one, and like I even was at the doctor the other day and their specific offices had them. So yeah, and it's just really to make sure that, if I was at a grocery store and someone was positive, just to alert them to it. Cause right, you go in and out, everybody goes in and out of grocery stores and stuff. So
you only scan when you go in, you don't scan when you come out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can scan both. I think typically just people do it just when they enter. And then, I think you would kind of have a mental note of, I was probably here around that time, or even, I was on there on the same day. I should take caution. But yeah, just scanning once. Some people scan twice, but.
That's so interesting. I have not heard. If anybody else is watching this, let us know if you guys are doing this in a different country, because I haven't heard of that at all. That's genius. Yeah, that's so good.
So good. Yeah, it's so good. It's a very good.
You guys are you're killing it over there. 0 cases. You've got the quarantine bubble. You've got the QR codes, no masks. Okay, let's talk about masks. So when are the only times that you need to wear a mask in New Zealand?
So the only times you have to wear masks currently are in Auckland when you're on public transport. So when you're in the greater Auckland out and about, you don't have to, but when you get on a bus, you have to, or their train system, or on domestic flights is the only other time. So flying around New Zealand is all good. You just have to wear a mask while you're on the flight, but that's the only time you will see a mask in New Zealand is if you're on a flight or in Auckland on a bus. So very minimal, very nice. I'm glad not to be wearing one all the time.
But when you go to the cricket match or like a concert, you don't need to wear a mask. Nobody's wearing masks. Nope. Nobody is sick and nobody's wearing masks. And then there's not any fear of spreading the virus because nobody's sick.
Yeah, exactly. So nobody's sick, so there's not a fear, but that's why it is on public transport, because our little outbreak that we had a while ago, most of the transmission was on a bus in Auckland. And so that's where like, whoa, that's a big, transit place, a lot of people coming and going. So that's why they put it on that. But other than that, nope, I haven't seen a mask in at all. The only time I was flying to Auckland. So.
Man.
Nothing, yeah.
And you get to breathe that good New Zealand air.
Yep, fresh air and sunshine in the summer. It's been real good.
Real good.
Yes.
Okay, cool, Kenzie. So we've talked about safety measures. Is there anything else there? What about hand sanitizer? Do people use it?
Yeah, and most stores will have it. And a lot of places, workplaces put up extra dispenser bottles and stuff. But I mean, currently at this level, I think the QR codes is mostly what's used, but it's available to everybody pretty much at every store you go to, if you want. So it is out there, yep. But again, I think since it's not in the community a lot, like just some of the simple preventative things to help it if it gets out is what people are doing, more than anything, like the QR codes, more than all of the other social distancing and mask and stuff. So
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Okay, we already touched on transportation information a little bit, but is there anything else there? So we've got domestic flights. How long are those domestic flights? They're running and there's no problem with domestic flights if you want to travel within New Zealand.
yep, it's all good to travel from New Zealand. Went to Auckland a few weeks ago. I dropped a friend at the airport this morning to go to Dunedin, which is south of here, and everything's all good. Just got to put on a mask for your hour and a half flight, and then all good to go. So, yeah, it's really easy to get around in New Zealand now. Not so much coming in, but
Okay, yeah. So you can't come in, but for the people who are in there, are they encouraging tourism right now?
oh yeah, definitely. Because it's one of New Zealand's biggest industries is tourism. So since we don't have tourists coming in, they've had a big campaign this summer of do something New Zealand. So it's trying to get all of the Kiwis and all of us here into new tourist places, into those places that we're doing big tourism. Like over the holiday, Tekapo is normally a very big tourist place. There's tourist buses and there's hundreds of people along the lake. But I went over the holiday and it was like just me at the lake. Nobody else was there. There would be maybe 5 other people max. And so you could obviously tell that this kind of tiny town was definitely needing some of that tourism. And they're kind of their big, obviously like tour spots and stuff. We're only running a few tours. Trying to go to some of those to help that big industry because normally there's so many camper vans and people from all over coming. But not so much anymore. So trying to get Kiwis to do those things.
Did you go on any tours in Tekapo?
I wanted to go. Tekapo's in a dark sky reserve, so no ambient light, so lots of stars and stuff, and they have a big observatory there. And so I was going to do that, but it was raining that night. But we had friends that went on a horse trip and did a whole trek around the lake. I had a friend that did some skydiving. So things are trying to be open as much as they can to fully work and help try and keep that tourism alive. But obviously just not the big influx of people makes it a little harder, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just like only Kiwis can move around to New Zealand so much.
Yeah.
It's without foreigners coming in, it makes it a little bit more challenging to get those tourist places open, attractions open.
Yeah. But it's probably a really good time for Kiwis to go because there's not a big crowd of tourists. So hopefully it'll get a little bit more people out there and a little bit more people of seeing their own country too. Because I think that's what I've seen is Kiwi friends of mine of like, oh, I've never been to, Milford Sound or Mount Cook, which are beautiful places. They're like, I haven't been because it's just sitting in their backyard, so
Yeah,
this will get them out there.
Let's get out there and explore our own backyard. I see this theme coming up again and again, just like, let's just explore our own country. There's so much there. And sometimes we get so caught up on like, I want to go so far and see a different place. But I mean, there's so much beauty just where we live. So that's so cool. It's so great to hear that Kiwis are encouraging that tourism within your own country and how it's really helping the system.
Yeah. It's trying to keep it afloat. So it's very good. Very nice.
Cool. So I think we've covered everything regarding the virus. Let me see here. Is there anything else about, the pandemic itself that you want to tell us about?
I don't think there's really too much. I think we've covered most of what's gone on here. Yeah.
Okay, cool. What?
Most of it, yeah. I think we've got most of it, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So since we've talked about the pandemic, let's get it a bit of a lighter mood here.
All right.
Kenzie, since you've been in New Zealand for a super long time, how many years have you been there?
3 years now.
3 years. So tell us a little bit about your favorite New Zealand experiences for when people are allowed to come back, and some ideas they can start getting about traveling to New Zealand.
All right. So I think one of my favorite spots is Mount Cook. It's one of the tallest mountains here, and it's got amazing, beautiful hikes, beautiful views, and it's really connected to the Maori people, which are the indigenous people here. And so you can learn about how it connects to them and just see amazing, beautiful things. The other thing I would recommend is blackwater rafting. That would be on the North Island, and it's basically you're in an inner tube in a cave, and you tube down this cave, and there's glowworms up above, so it looks like the night sky, and it's an amazing experience. It's probably one of my favorite things that I've done, even though I was terrified to do it at the time.
How long are you in the cave for?
Probably like hour and a half. It's a good little walk, and there's like 2 little waterfalls that you kind of have to jump off of, and you have to jump like backwards in your tube off the waterfall in the dark. So it's like, but it's really fun and
what?
so,
I'm trying to picture this in my head. I'm like, whoa. Wait.
It's a very Kiwi thing, I think, very extreme like sport thing.
Yeah, you guys seem to jump off a lot of cliffs there.
Yeah. Just typical Tuesday, go jump off a cliff.
Go swimming in the ocean, go swimming in the lake, in the cave.
In a cave, anywhere.
So is that cave, you said it's like tubing and walking? Both?
Yeah, so it's kind of a shallow river at first, so you're carrying your tube through and getting into it, and then it gets a little too deep, so you gotta hop in your tube and you float a little bit, and then you come to the waterfall, jump off, float a little bit, second waterfall, and then you all kind of like link arms and like legs in your tube, so you're all in kind of a big worm thing, and then you float on the calm part, and like in there, because it's kind of near the entrance, is a whole bunch of glowworms, so it looks like just little stars above you, and everybody's like quiet, you're just like watching the stars float by, and it's so pretty, so fun. Very good experience, very unique New Zealand experience, so definitely recommend it when you come down here.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's super unique. I can't really even picture this in my head.
Yeah, have to come down and try it then.
Yes, I'll be there when I can, when it's safe.
Yes.
Wow. Thanks, Kenzie. Thanks for sharing. So Mount Cook
in South Island, and then Waitomo Caves.
Waitomo Caves.
Yep.
Cool. And also, what was the other place that starts with the letter T?
Oh, Tekapo, Lake Tekapo.
Do you recommend that too?
Yeah, definitely. That is a really pretty place. It's in kind of a basin, and the lake is like it's not a typical lake color. It's a teal, kind of really bright blue, because it's glacier water. It's directly from the glacier. And so it's amazing, really cold, but for a really good swim on a nice day. But there's also so many hikes and different things that you can do there. That's where I had my holiday, and we just did so many things, and such a beautiful place. Definitely would recommend it as well. And you can't go wrong in New Zealand. Everything, especially the South Island, in my opinion, is beautiful. You're not going to really find something that you like. It's just all great. That's a recommendation to go everywhere.
To go everywhere.
Like,
you can't go wrong.
I don't think you can go wrong with somewhere in New Zealand. So
what about I am a little curious to hear about accommodations there in New Zealand, since everything's open and everything's fine. I mean, are there hostels if you wanted to stay in hostels?
Yep, especially because it's such a tourist place normally. So hostels are really big. And then now obviously there are no tourists. So they're still trying to get everybody to come in, and it's a great way to do a road trip and everything. Yeah, hostels are still quite big, pulling for everybody going around. Yeah, very big going around, easy to stay in. Similar, I would assume, to other hostels. I haven't been to too many outside, but yeah.
But I mean, have you Have you been to any hostels or heard of anyone who went to
Yeah.
hostels during since the pandemic started?
I haven't. I think most people I know have camping gear, so they do that instead.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think, especially in the current level that we're in now, it would be fairly similar to what was pre-pandemic.
Just with less people.
QR code, yeah, less people and just a QR code to say you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I know anybody since everybody's gone camping.
What about you? Were you camping when you did these trips, or where did you stay?
No, we stayed in a batch, so it's like a Kiwi holiday home.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like a Airbnb basically kind of place, is where we stayed.
It's called a batch. Is that a Kiwi
Yes.
slang word?
I definitely think that's a Kiwi slang word. I'm not sure what the extension of it is, but yes.
What's the website where you can look at the holiday homes?
I think it's just holiday homes, and then it's got the .ac.nz. I can have a look for it and send it through if you want.
Zed.
Holiday Homes New Zealand, yeah.
Now Kenzie's using Zed instead of Z.
I am, but it still sounds weird when I spell my name with a Z.
Kenzzie.
Yeah, it just sounds wrong.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird. I don't think.
Yeah, no.
What other slang words have you learned since being there?
I've picked up heaps, and keen is one of my new favorite words. Cheers, say cheers a lot. It's definitely another one. Sweet as, said that a few times, and people look at me a little funny because of my American accent. I'm like, should you be saying that? I think I'm ingrained enough though that I can say it.
How do you use that? Like, how do you use sweet as? Like, in what context?
Like someone was like, oh, you know how to, let me see. Like just kind of like, I don't know, man, it's really, like, oh, it was just sweet as, like, oh man, why can't I think of an example?
Like if something is cool?
Like I had such a, yeah, like that was really cool. Like, oh yeah, like sweet as, yeah, like great, like thanks. Or like, it has a few different meanings, I think. Because it can be like, yeah, like meet you at the cafe or something, like, oh yeah, sweet as, meet you there. Like.
I just finished my PhD paper.
Sweet as.
Does it work like that or no?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
It doesn't sound like that was a good example. Meet you at the cafe later.
Yeah, sweet as.
Okay, Kenzie. I don't know if we have anything else here. Is there anything else you can think of?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Be patient, everybody. New Zealand is beautiful, and it's going to be here for you, waiting whenever the time is right?
Whenever you can come back. Yep, beautiful place to come. So it'll be here.
It'll be here, and Kenzie might be there if you want to get connected.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Sweet as.
Sweet as. There you go. That was the perfect use of it. That was good.
Cool. Okay. Kenzie has given me some links that we're going to put down here in the description for you guys so that if you want to get more updates on New Zealand, that we'll make sure to give those to you. Kenzie, thank you for your time and for sharing with us so many great things about New Zealand and updating us. Thank you. And we will see you in New Zealand.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.